first and foremost, it's your survival, it's your emotion, it's your expression. Do you. Don't guide yourself by what other people are doing. Don't let it, weigh on you. Don't let it drive you to do something else. Because since we're all so unique, whatever you gotta do and whatever you're gonna express yourself and however you do it is always gonna be different than somebody else. And there's always gonna be somebody out there who can relate to you and connect.
What's up, guys? Today I'm welcoming Goose.
Yo.
And he is an artist from Miami, born. And first of all, thank you for coming out. I know it was a jar for you, and we're in Hollywood right now. We just had a conversation, but I met you at Sound Drip. You were performing, and I was fond by the way you performed. And you told me that was your first performance.
Yeah, that was my first performance. It was such a good feeling to be there too. I was a little nervous at first because it was in the neck of, a part of Miami I wasn't really familiar with.
Yeah.
But after, showing up and letting myself get into the mood of things, it definitely took that edge off. I think I put out my first song that I made on my own back in 2000. I would say 2013. I've been doing poetry since I was a kid.
Poetry? What kind of poetry? Like spoken word type stuff?
Kinda. It was more I could tell you the first instance I really remember. It started off when in 5th grade I had a Spanish teacher. She introduced us to poetry, and we did one for Spanish. I ended up submitting that to the county fair, to the youth fair, and I don't remember exactly what place. I want to say I got a little first place ribbon, but it wasn't I stood on a stage and they handed me an award or anything.
What would be your flavor? What's your style? I want to know your style because I heard one song. I haven't listened to your music, man.
Yeah, I guess I could better explain it by saying what my goal is with it.
Sure.
Which is, I want you to listen to it and I want you to be able to think, not just about maybe the topic I'm speaking on, but let it trickle into and expand your mind into other regions of thought. When I write,
what's that like? Do you just go, hey, I'm gonna make time to write at 2:30?
It's I wake up and I say I need to write. It's like an urge, and just simply put, it's for me. It takes me a long time to actually write my lyrics because it's all about the thought that goes into it. For me, it's what is it that I'm trying to say? I don't always pursue a song with a set theme in mind. For the most part, it'll be I listen to the rhythm, I listen to the melody, whatever beat I choose, instrumental, and then from there, what does that say to me? And the way I approach it is what belongs here?
What are you trying to give out? What's your card? What are you dishing out?
So
what's your message?
Yeah, okay. I guess the message, all in all, so going back to how I write.
Sure.
I do a lot of double entendre stuff.
What's that?
So kind of double meanings. So I might say something and you can take it for face value.
Oh yeah.
But if you're listening or you're thinking a certain way.
I have a question. Is it because it just flowed out? Because when I freestyle, it'll just come out in a way, and then it's almost it's not what I wanted to say, but then the next thing is what I want. It's like a weird filler. It's like a filler. Well, how do you see with your double entendre?
Sometimes it comes naturally.
Yeah.
For instance, I'll just say something and I'll see the double meaning in it.
Oh yeah. Okay.
But for a lot of times, I'll say something, I'll say, oh okay, this means this, and then later on I'll look at it or right then and there and say, hold on, this also means that. And sometimes it's also intentional. It was deeper than what you intended originally. That's dope. Yeah, and that works really well because for me, when I create art, it comes from me. So much about it is you could almost say selfish. But I think that my intention.
Self-aware. You're self-aware about yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
You're kind of going through life, and whatever you're realizing in that moment, or that you're figuring out or exploring, you're expressing it through art and music.
Exactly.
So would you consider yourself an artist, or would you consider yourself a musician? I ask people this all the time. I go, like, what would be your category, like, of music? And they say, well, I don't have a category. I just, like, shit, like, it gets to a point where I'm just an artist. And then it gets to a point where, shit, I'm just a person. So what are you?
To put myself into like a genre or a subgenre, I feel would like take away from what I'm trying to create. You know, the question of artist or musician, I think with musician, it involves a lot more composing, putting together the instrumentation so that the message you're trying to, it's pretty much, so when it comes down to communications, there's this concept of message and medium. So message is what I'm trying to say, and medium is how I convey it, right? So for example, you know, and this is a very simple example. Something could be us talking, right? And we're communicating, we're having a conversation right now, right? You can get so much, or rather, maybe not so much more, so much less, but you can interpret it, what I'm saying, based on my voice, how the fluctuations in my voice are, my tone, my body language as well.
For sure.
Versus if I sent you a text, there's really an absence of tone in there. You know, now we have things like emojis, which I think are amazing because they really help you, you know, add a character to what you're saying.
Yeah, and the distance of people, that's like the big thing with the internet. It's like you want to talk to them, but shit, you're all the way over there, and especially now,
exactly.
Shit, I mean, we're wearing masks, like
we're wearing masks, we're
shit,
6 feet apart type shit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
For someone who's doesn't know what they want to do and having trouble expressing themselves, how would you like guide them?
Principally, it's a method of discovery that requires you to experiment. As you live, you will have certain experiences that if you don't know the answer yourself, keep going down the path you think is right. There is no such thing as a wrong decision. Everything happens for a reason. And to that regard, I have this little thing I say that coincidences are cues. That if you don't think it so much as random happening and you think of it as, wait, that's a sign,
I like that.
You can really start to garner a lot more, I guess, symbolism in the world around you. Once you're able to understand symbols and understand how you interpret things, it makes it easier for you to figure out, or rather own in on, what type of art should I be making? Should I be painting this? Should I be writing lyrics? Should I be dancing? You know, and the beautiful thing about it is that they're all art.
Yeah.
They're all art in their own right, and you can go and watch a ballet performance, appreciate it as art, or you can go to a museum and look at paintings, appreciate it as art, or you can be at Sound Drip, for example, performing, and you can consider that art. For some people who might struggle with like self-confidence or maybe shy, you have to feel it. And if it feels right, and I'm not talking about like in the back of your head you have a little voice that says, I don't know about it. No, it's less logical, more emotional, and you feel it. You're like, yeah, this is right. This is the way I need to express myself. First thing you consider is message. You know, what is it that I have to say? What is it that I have to express? Let's go with that. Let's not say, but let's go with express. What is it that I have to express? And then from there, it's how do I express it?
So you get your you get your message, and then you kind of like test out the message in different situations or different like
mediums, different styles. So let's compare it like singing versus drawing versus dancing. I mean, there's so many. I feel like art takes so many different shapes and forms because, for example, I mean, and I think when it comes down to everything, there's an art and a science to all of it. So, for example, like these buildings around us, this middle little kind of like island thing going on with this whole street.
Yeah,
that's art. It's architecture. You know, it's there's something that you can enjoy from that. The way the inside is designed is also going to promote some kind of emotion or thought or feeling. If you're dancing, the way in which you move your body, the fluidity or the rigidity of your movements all represent something. It's all symbols. And really it's a matter of you figuring out how can you put your symbols together? How can you put whatever it is you're trying to express into a form that you enjoy, because you have to enjoy it, and release that to people so that they can now take it in and interpret it. You can't decide what somebody else is gonna think. You can't decide how somebody else is gonna feel. And sometimes when I'm delivering, you know, when I'm recording the music and I'm delivering with my tone of voice and all this stuff, at times I'll either express myself directly, so there is no question of whether or not I'm frustrated or whether or not I'm happy. But sometimes I'll juxtapose it. You know, I'll do kind of like an opposite parallel, where I'm saying one thing, but the way I'm sounding makes it sound like I don't
You're
really.
getting to something else.
You might get a different interpretation.
That's cool. That's like almost guiding someone. That's like take a walking, because oftentimes I want to go back to what you said about being shy.
Yeah.
And how people don't express themselves because they're shy.
Yeah.
If they already went to that place of performing, and if they already stepped into the situation of them expressing themselves and they were already there to be like, oh, I know how that's gonna feel. And I kind of like tested it, and it's gonna be different next time, but I kind of tested it. So like now going into it, I'm kind of I'm a little bit more smoother. I feel like we get shyness and unfamiliarness mixed up. Like we're just really unfamiliar. Like
or even I think a word I like to use is uncomfortable. A lot of times we don't want to do something because we think, how am I gonna look? How are people gonna think of me? And I think that's where shyness. If I had to think about shyness, because I've experienced it myself as well, I think everybody has to some extent. I think it's a matter of thinking too much about everybody else around you, and the thing is that expression and art, the end result is everybody around you, but leading up to that, it's all about you. But I think teetering on that question of like, you know, how does it work for somebody who's shy, and then getting to the point where you kind of feel comfortable with doing it, that in between, it's really all about, are you comfortable with yourself? If I'm truly comfortable with myself and I'm comfortable with the art that I've created, then it doesn't matter what everybody else thinks. And I think in part, one of the things that a lot of people suffer when they're trying to figure out what is their medium, how do they express their art, they really take into consideration is what would other people think. And truth is, that's not a part of creating. After you're done doing it, then it's up to everybody to enjoy or to not enjoy, to you know, clap it up or laugh at you. But regardless, it starts with you finding your place, finding what you feel comfortable with, and going off, because we were talking about like being uncomfortable. Uncomfortable is the only way we grow. It's the only way we challenge ourselves to do better, is when we're in a situation where it's like, I really don't want to try that. But then you try it, and even though that's not the thing, you gain something regardless. I wouldn't say there's no such thing as wasting time, but it's very difficult to waste time. Because even if let's just say I'm supposed to be doing music, and I decided
it's kind of the way you look at it, right? It's kind of the way you look, and why wouldn't you look at it positive? That's what we're trying to preach. That's like
exactly.
Because growing up, I know you're very intuitive, and I know you express that. But what is not being intuitive? Like, it's weird, right? Like, because I'm thinking like I'm separate from someone who's not intuitive. How the hell?
Intuition is all about. I mean, I don't want to say that the heart and the gut are one thing, because they're not. Like I would attribute, and I don't mean heart like in a physical sense, but like,
you mean like they work together?
Emotion and instinct. And instinct would be intuition. What you feel is right, like in your gut. Like, you know, me, for example, like coming here, I had no drawback. I had nothing telling me this wasn't the right thing to do. And even if I was in some form of emotional state, that should not bleed over into what I feel is right. And I think the best example I could give is
Interesting.
when I'm writing music, there will be times where I'm dealing with my thoughts, I'm dealing with my emotions, and I'm dealing with my intuition all in one. Where maybe I write a line or a lyric and my mind says, no, you're overthinking it too much, or no, that sounds stupid. My emotions might go along the lines of, I don't feel like this is right, but then my gut says, no, that's the way you're supposed to do it. Then ultimately, I have to go with my gut. If my gut says I'm supposed to make this weird sound, this weird ad-lib in this track, I have to make the weird ad-lib because that's the only way it's gonna come across.
Would you say that the gut is like the guru in a sense, the thing that's guiding you, like a more personal guiding system?
Yeah.
Like in us, really.
I think it is, but I don't think that just because. I don't
So
think. So
where's the line? Like where's the? You
yeah.
see, it's kind of like it's hard to tell someone how to like function because it's like
it's all things in moderation.
It's so many different things. Like you kind of just have to do it, and it's yeah.
So there has to be a line somewhere, because your gut could tell you to do some pretty ridiculous things, and then you go ahead and you try them out, and it could quite very well be, working backwards. And I'll put it to you this way, when your gut is leading you down a path that is not going to let you do the things that you're trying to set out for yourself, like goals and what you consider an accomplishment, and that I think comes from the mind. When your gut and your mind are starting to fight one another, and your intuition is you're having this inner struggle between I know what I have to do versus I don't feel that it's right, that's when you can start to question your gut. Sometimes it's just a matter of you're looking at it from the wrong angle. Maybe the thoughts that are going into your head aren't necessarily the right ones. All three have to kind of be in sync for you to move forward with certainty. Now that being said, if you can't move forward with certainty, just try it. Just try it. I could still always go back and say, well, what was I trying to do? And I could fix it and I could work better. And that's part of that being uncomfortable, but still pursuing it, because you're going to experience something and you're going to grow from that.
For sure. Thank you for coming out and giving that.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it, dude.
We were playing like Ring of Fire. You familiar with Ring of Fire?
No.
It's like a card drinking game. And at one point he goes, oh, the goose is loose.
The goose is loose.
The goose is loose.
G-U-S, right?
Yeah, that's how I spell it. And I always put
what is that called?
The umlaut. Yeah, so I discovered that one because I'm like, there has to be a way to write this properly. And I saw it and I loved it because it looked like a smiley face.